Across Ukraine, people are navigating an increasingly dark reality. Strikes on energy infrastructure are causing extensive blackouts. Water supply plants have also taken hits. Now, both Moscow and Kyiv accuse one another of plotting to blow up a major dam on the Dnieper River. Not only would damage to the hydroelectric plant likely lead to more blackouts, but it could also send floodwaters rushing towards hundreds of thousands of people downstream.
After sunset, darkness descends on neighbourhoods and towns around Kyiv. Streetlights are out and people navigate the suburbs with flashlights. Ukrainians are getting used to rolling power cuts after Russian missiles destroyed a third of the country's power infrastructure in the last 2 weeks alone. Ukraine dominated the UN's Security Council meeting on Friday.
Combined with soaring gas and coal prices, the devastation caused by these attacks threatens to expose millions of civilians to extreme hardship and even life-endangering conditions this winter. To be clear, under international humanitarian law, attacks targeting civilians and civilian infrastructure are prohibited.
But in the latest phase of Russia's war on Ukraine, Moscow defiantly says it will intensify attacks on Ukraine's power, water and other vital infrastructure. There are growing fears the next target will be the hydroelectric works at Kakhovka. Russian troops took control of the dam north of Kherson on the Dnieper River back in March. Moscow has warned that Ukrainian forces are planning to destroy the dam. Kyiv says Russia has mined the dam and is planning a false flag attack, which it would blame on Ukraine. This terrorist attack could lead to many thousands of victims and the flooding of dozens of settlements. We call on the UN, the EU and other organizations for an international monitoring mission to Kakhovka hydroelectric power station. International experts should arrive at the station immediately, along with Ukrainian personnel. Military analysts fear that the Russian army will blow up the dam to destroy Kherson and cover their retreat from the area. A mass removal of civilians from Kherson to Russia and other Russian-controlled areas of Ukraine is only fueling those fears.
DW's Matthias Berlinger joins us now from Kyiv. Matthias, Russia clearly ramping up attacks on Ukraine's critical energy infrastructure. And now we're getting reports of new strikes this morning.
Yes, and it seems to be really one of the worst strikes in these past few days, where we have seen constant attacks on energy infrastructure, on power plants, on relay stations, etc., etc. 30 missiles we're hearing were fired this morning on Ukraine, 18 intercepted, but 12, it seems, have hit their targets all over the country. There are in the western part, there are attacks, and there are attacks in the central and in the southern part. Those rockets who were meant for Kyiv didn't make it through, but again, massive strikes all over the country on infrastructure, a lot of damage. Some of the plants that were hit today seem to be already have been in the process of repairing. They have been hit before, so Russia continues to attack these infrastructures before winter in order to make life more difficult here throughout the winter months.
Maybe you're getting to my next question here. How are people making sense of the Russian tactic to focus their firepower on hitting civilian infrastructure rather than striking Ukrainian forces?
Well, the Russian forces are not doing very well on the battlefield. That's not a secret. And many people here see this as a revenge on Ukraine for being militarily more able than Russia might have thought in the beginning, and for being more successful on the battlefield than Russia. So instead of taking revenge on the military, or instead of hitting military targets, they're taking revenge on the population that supports the military in a vast majority. And many people here think also that this is meant to break people's spirit, to make people suffer, so they will eventually give in to Russian demands. This is clearly something that's not working. Resolve is stronger than it used to be after every attack, and people get the impression that Russia is more frightening than many might have thought even before. So this is a tactic that Russia has used before. Russia has attacked civilians in all the wars that it led in Syria and in Chechnya, and it has, of course, in these two cases, achieved many of its goals. Here, people are convinced that it is not working. There is also the suspicion that the civilians are targeted in order to make them suffer, because basically Russia has an intent to destroy the Ukrainian nation.
All of this as winter is coming. Paint a picture for us of what could happen if the Novokakhovka Dam was in fact blown up.
That's the fear. Zelensky has voiced that fear, and Russia has also talked about it. Of course, Russia accusing Ukraine of planning to attack the dam, Zelensky accusing Russia of having mined the dam. If that happened, if this dam would have been blown up, and some experts think that Russia might do this as they retreat from the Kherson area in order to cover their retreat, and in order also to make it more difficult for Ukraine to cross the river and chase them further out of these occupied territories. This would be a disaster. All models are pointing to the city of Kherson being completely flooded, or at least the biggest parts of the city flooded. This would, of course, cost a lot of human lives.
DW correspondent Matthias Berlinger for us there in Kyiv. Many thanks, Matthias.